Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of the state of Tennessee. Today's date, Sunday afternoon, November the 30th, 2025. Time 3:45 p.m. First, thank you to my family, my support, continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area, continue to further my education, my own college line, continue to pursue my social degree, studying being administrative contract to market. Pray the time I took a break and going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school. And I'm gonna continue to work on earning my social degree, being administrative contract and marketing, as well as other degrees. Now, what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known by BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county sheriff. It's in the state of Tennessee. And today's date is in the county sheriff. And today's date is Sunday. It's November the 30th, 2025. Sunday afternoon, November the 30th, 2025. And time is 3:47 p.m. First, I thank you to my family, my support, for continuing to support, and continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area, continue to further my education. I continue to further my education by continuing to work toward earning my social degree and being administrative contract market. I took a break from going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna earn my social degree as well as other degrees. First, I want to say thank you to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, for all the blessings and the guidance He provides us all with. And continue to pray about these natural disasters and continue to pray about wars that are being fought, that we can have peace from war. And I want to take this opportunity, I want to take this time, and on my last video, last week, we talked about Veterans Day. Talking about how many of our veterans, first of all, I don't forget Veterans Day, because I'm an honorary discharged veteran of the United States Marine Corps. And so, I didn't want, like I forgot Veterans Day, And so, current events, veterans serving, active duty, reserve, as well as those who, retired, or been on the discharge or discharged from the United States Armed Forces. Wounded or prisoners or missing in action or killed in action, This week, as you know, you had an incident here in the United States of America in Washington, D.C. Apparently, some Afghan national attacked our United States armed forces. Our reserves, reservists in the armed reserve who were in Washington, D.C. were attacked by Afghan nationals. And unfortunately, one of the service members passed away from the injuries. Passed away. The other service member is in critical condition, and I want to just take this. I want to take this moment for a moment of silence and to pray. My thoughts and prayers are with the families of the servicemen, of our service members. Their families, and the sacrifices that they have made. Take this moment and to say a prayer for them and their families. And I said, unfortunately, one of the service members who was attacked by this Afghan national, unfortunately, passed away from the injuries. The other service member is in critical condition. So, like I said, our thoughts and our prayers are with the families. And continue to pray for all our service men and women, active duty, reserve. Continue to pray. And also, let me take the opportunity to say that this week was Thanksgiving, and hope and pray that any and everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving celebration. I can honestly say that I enjoyed my Thanksgiving, and like I said, I enjoyed my Thanksgiving, and had the opportunity to sit down and relax. Didn't have to get up and go to work or run out the door, but just sit down and relax. And yes, I did watch the dog show from the beginning to the end. All the dogs are winners. All the dogs are winners. And also, if your favorite football team then win on Thanksgiving Day, you know, it's a game. You know, and so like I said, Thanksgiving, like I said, it happened, first of all, safe and happy celebration, don't have any headache from eating too much swine or anything. I can be thankful, for that. They got over this daggum government shutdown, and life went back to as usual, So like I said, Thanksgiving, pretty happy celebration. And the weather, like I said, I didn't really go outside or anything. I was pretty much content. But I enjoy my holiday, Thanksgiving holiday, looking forward to Christmas and New Year's. So, as well as just looking forward to just being able to be blessed to see another day. But like I said, I hope and pray that any and everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. I know the weather can be an issue. If I ain't mistaken, they had snow in some places. So, which can be a problem. Some people look forward to snow, because it's a year-round thing. It's a every year thing. So they pretty much accustomed to snow, and they kind of weather it. So they pretty much usually deal with it. But me, in this part of the country, it's not a usual thing, but it does happen. We do get snow occasionally. But as of right now, a little cold air. Not too cold, but a little cold air. And so, like I said, I've been saying and continue to say, Going to continue to talk about prehistoric religion, traditional, ancient African religion, indefinitely. Those stone tools, because that's what Paleolithic is referring to. Different when they say Paleolithic or Old Stone Age, which is a period in human prehistory, distinguished by the original development of stone tools, which is that's a very important, because you know when they talk about those stone tools and how the technology, that industry, they refer to it as an industry because it's spread. And let me click back over here. All right, prehistoric religion is the religious practice of prehistoric cultures. Prehistory, the period before written records. That's important. See, a lot of things, when you hear things being said, pay attention to any and everything being said. Like prehistory. Because prehistory is referring to humans. Let's take, for example, the earth. The earth can't the air, the water, but we as humans, prehistory. The period before written, prehistory. It's talking about written records, written prehistory. They ain't say anything about the cave art. That ain't what prehistory is talking about. See, we had to make that point. It's not talking about the stone tools. Prehistory is not talking about the stone tools. Prehistory is not talking about those Venus figurines. That's not prehistory. Prehistory, the period before written, records. Not the cave art. Prehistory is not the cave art. Prehistory is not the burial. That's not prehistory. Prehistory, the period before written records. That's the reason why it's not the earth. Now it accounts for the bulk of human experience, human experience. Over 99% of it occurred during the Paleolithic. in the Paleolithic or Stone Age, Old Stone Age. Paleolithic, Old Stone Age is a period in human prehistory, distinguished by the original development of stone tools. And when we say human, that's plural. It represents almost the entire period of human prehistoric technology, extending from the earliest known use of stone tools by hominins 3.3 million years ago to the end of the Pleistocene. And when we talk about the Pleistocene, it's a geological epoch that lasts from 2.58 million to 11,700 years ago, spanning the Earth's most recent period of repeated glaciations. Before a change was finally confirmed in 2009 by the International Union of Geological Sciences, the cutoff of the Pleistocene and the preceding Pliocene. And as we know, that's the reason why math is so important. Because when we talk about prehistoric religion, and when we talk about traditional, ancient African religion, math is very important. Math cannot be overlooked. You got your branches of science, formal sciences, natural sciences, and social sciences. And then from those sciences, then you get those fields of science, for instance, like biology and anthropology and archaeology and various fields. As well as engineering and medicine. Very important. Math is very important. And then you have your physical sciences, as well as earth sciences. Well, natural sciences and so on and so forth. Well, there was natural science, you got physical science and life sciences. And you have your applied science and so on and so forth. All science. So math is very important. Cannot be overlooked. You talk about the Pleistocene and Pliocene, Jurassic, and all that. Math. Geological time scale. Math. see here. But like I said, I was looking at this math. I was mathematics thing. I was trying to find. Let me see. So like I said, Paleolithic, Stone Age, Old Stone Age, be specific, old Stone Age. And what it's referring to them stones too. Let me click back over right quick. Now, when we talk about prehistoric religion, now, the Paleolithic period alone, it's saying over 99% of it occurred during the Paleolithic period alone. Prehistoric cultures spanned the globe and existed for over 2.5 million years. Their religious practices were many and varied, and studying them is difficult due to the lack of written records detailing the details of their faith. Pay attention. The cognitive capacity for religion likely first emerged in Homo sapiens sapiens or anatomically modern humans, although some scholars posit the existence of Neanderthal religion and sparse evidence exists for earlier ritual practice. Excluding sparse and controversial evidence in the Middle Paleolithic, 300,000 to 50,000 years ago, religion emerged with certainty in the Upper Paleolithic, around 50,000 years ago. Upper Paleolithic religion was possibly shamanic. And shamanism is a spiritual practice that involves a practitioner, shaman, interacting with the spirit world through altered states of consciousness, such as trance. The goal of this is usually to direct spirits or spiritual energies into the physical world for the purpose of healing, divination, or to aid. Or to aid human beings in some other way. All right. And centered on the phenomenon of special spiritual leaders entering trance states to receive esoteric knowledge. These practices are extrapolated from the rich and complex body of art left by Paleolithic artists, particularly the elaborate cave art and enigmatic Venus figurines they produce. So, the cognitive capacity for religion likely first emerged in Homo sapiens sapiens, or anatomically modern humans. So let me click on that Homo sapiens sapiens. When it comes to human taxonomy, it is the classification of the human species within zoological taxonomy. The systematic genus, and genus is a taxonomic rank above species and below family. It's used in the biological classification of living and fossil organisms as well as viruses. In binomial nomenclature, the genus name forms the first part of the binomial species name for each species within the genus. Homo is designed to include both anatomically modern humans and extinct varieties of archaic humans. Current humans are classified as subspecies to Homo sapiens, differentiated, according to some, from the direct ancestor, Homo sapiens audatus, with some other research instead classifying audatus and current humans as belonging to the same subspecies. And since the introduction of systematic names in the 18th century, knowledge of human evolution has increased significantly, and a number of intermediate taxa have been proposed in the 20th and early 21st century. Most widely accepted taxonomy grouping takes the genus Homo as originating between 2 and 3 million years ago, divided into at least 2 species: archaic Homo erectus and modern Homo sapiens, with about a dozen further suggestions for species without universal recognition. All right, so let me click back over. All right, where was it? Okay. Homo sapiens sapiens or anatomic modern humans. Okay, let's get back over here on where we was on these stone tools. So, now when we talk about these stone tools, they have been used throughout human history, but are most closely associated with prehistoric cultures, and in particular those of the Stone Age. And stone tools may be made of either ground stone or napstone, the latter fashioned by a craftsman called a flint flint knapper. And when it comes to stone, stone has been used to make a wide variety of tools throughout history, including arrowheads, spearheads, hand axes, and kerns. Napstone tools are nearly ubiquitous in pre-metal use society because they are easily manufactured. The tool stone raw material usually plentiful, and they are easy to transport and sharpen. Now, the study of stone tools is a cornerstone of prehistoric archaeology because they are essentially indestructible and therefore a ubiquitous component of the archaeological record. Ethnoarchaeology is used to further the understanding and cultural implications of stone tool use and manufacture. Now, let me see. Now, when it comes to these stone tools, now the archaeologists, they classify stone tools into industries, also known as complexes or techno-complexes. They share distinctive technological or morphological characteristics. And so in 1969, the second edition of World Prehistory, Graham Clark proposed an evolutionary progression of flint knapping in which the dominant lithic technologies occurred in a fixed sequence from mode 1 through mode 5. He assigned to them relative dates, modes 1 and 2 to the lower Paleolithic, 3 to the middle Paleolithic, 4 to the upper Paleolithic, and 5 to the Mesolithic, though there were other lithic technologies outside these modes. Each region had its own timeline for the succession of the modes. For example, mode 1 was in use in Europe long after it had been replaced by mode 2 in Africa. Clark's scheme was adopted enthusiastically by the archaeological community. One of its advantages was the simplicity of terminology. For example, the mode 1, mode 2 transition. The transitions are currently of greatest interest. Consequently, in the literature, the stone tools used in the period of the Paleolithic are divided into 4 modes, each of which designates a different form of complexity. which in most cases followed a rough chronological order. Now you got pre-mold 1. Those are stone tools found from 2011 to 2014 at the Lomekwi archaeological site near Lake Turkana in Kenya. Are dated to be 3.3 million years old and predate the genus Homo by about 1 million years. The oldest known Homo fossil is about 2.4 to 2.3 million years old, compared to the 3.3 million year old stone tool. The stone tool may have been made by Australopithecus afarensis, the species whose best fossil example is Lucid, which inhabited East Africa at the same time as the date of the oldest stone tool. A yet unidentified species, or by Kenyanthropus platypus, 3.2 to 3.5 million year old Pliocene hominin fossil discovered in 1999. Dating of the tools was done by dating volcanic ash layers, in which the tools were found, and dating the magnetic signature pointing north or south due to reversal of the magnetic poles of the rock at the site. And that was in Kenya. Now, over in Ethiopia, grooved, cut, and fractured animal bone fossils made by using stone tools were found in Dike, Ethiopia, near 200 yards. The remains of Ceylon, a young Australopithecus afarensis girl who lived about 3.3 million years ago. So all this pre-mold 1. Now when you have mold 1, the Oldowan industry. The earliest stone tools in the era of genus Homo are mold 1 tools and come from what has been termed the Oldowan industry, named after the type of site. Many sites actually found in Oldove Gorge, Tanzania, where they were discovered in large quantities. Oldowan tools were characterized by their simple construction, predominantly using core forms. These cores were river pebbles or rocks similar to them that had been struck by a spherical hammerstone to cause conchoida fractures, removing flakes from one surface, creating an edge and often a sharp tip. The blunt end is the proximal surface. The sharp, the distal, Oldowan is a percussion technology. Grasping the proximal surface, the hominid brought the distal surface down hard on an object he wished to detach or shatter, such as a bone or tuber. Experiments with modern humans found that all four Oldowan napping techniques can be invented by napping naive participants, and that the resultant Oldowan tools were used by the experiment participants to access a money baited box. The earliest known Odoan tools have been found at Inyayange on the Home Peninsula in Kenya and are dated 2.9 million years ago, as well as from the Gone and Lida Gereru sites in Ethiopia, dated from around 2.6 million years ago. During the Lower Paleolithic. After this date, the Odoan industry subsequently spread throughout much of Africa, although archaeologists are currently unsure which hominin species first developed them, with some speculating that it was Australopithecus garhi, and others believing that it was in fact Homo habilis. Homo habilis was the hominin who used the tools for most of the Odoan in Africa. But at about 1.8 million years ago, Homo erectus inherited them. The industry flourished in southern and eastern Africa between 2.6 and 1.7 million years ago, but was also spread out of Africa and into Eurasia by traveling bands of Homo erectus, who took it as far east as Java by 1.8 million years ago and northern China by 1.6 million years ago. See what I'm talking about? See, this is the reason why scientists be telling you about the coming out of Africa and all these things. They finding all these stone tools, not just in Africa, but the same stone tools that originated in Africa. They find them same stone tools in other areas of the globe, of the earth. And then they, of course, they date those that they find in those other areas, and they just as old as those in Africa. And then they just, that's the reason why they call it an industry and things of this nature. Complexes. And so, we're talking about these stone tools. And so, it's important that we all, because let me see. Right. So that's what I had to go back. But they was talking about this industry. This industry flourished in southern and eastern Africa between 2.6 and 1.7 million years ago, but was also spread out of Africa and into Eurasia by traveling bands of Homo erectus, who took it as far east as Java about 1.8 million years ago and northern China about 1.6 million years ago. So, this is a very important point of traveling bands of Homo erectus. Now, your brain and you using these stone tools. Now the earth at that period of time, of course, was different. Talking about spread out of Africa and into Eurasia. Traveling bands of Homo erectus. And they went all the way over to Java and to northern China. Now your brain, you talking about all the way over to northern China. That's a long way to be going. So think about it. Along the way, the first ones like traveling bands of Homo erectus, the ones in the front. The ones in the front. How many of them actually made it? We don't know. We can't say. Then you had someone come behind. So you can't just say, okay, we don't know what bands mean in that way. Like how many? Well, traveling bands. Apparently, it wasn't just no one group. It was like a long line of people coming out of Africa. Not all at the same time. Going in that direction. And when they were going that direction, they were taking this industry, these stone tools, with them. And so, I'm trying not to go too far, go further. But, this is very important. But when you're talking about mode 1, then you have pre-mode 1. We're talking about the earliest Homo, Homo habilis and all them. We talking about Kenyanthropus, Australopithecus afarensis. And so that's what is important, is that you don't forget who the scientists are saying was moving around. And they talking about that was around 2.6, 1.7 million years ago. And they saying that it was like Homo habilis. Who was an archaic human from the Pleistocene, early Pleistocene. But when they talk about this Australopithecus guy, doing the same thing, the Pleistocene. When you start talking about these other ones, that's when you get in that pre-mode 1. And when you start talking about this Australopithecus afarensis, that's in the Pliocene. That's 3.9 to 2.9 million years ago. Considered to be one of the extinct species of Australopithecine. And that's another one, the Kenyanthropus, platypus, platyops, genus of extinct hominin. They call him a hominid. See, they call him a hominid. Identified from the Lomekwi site by Lake Turkana, Kenya, dated 3.3 to 3.2 million years ago during the Middle Pliocene. See, we have to pay attention when they be talking about Pleistocene and Pliocene, because the Earth was different. That's the reason why the branches of science in the fields of science, the chemists, the geological, the geologists, and all those scientists. When they be talking about the Pliocene and Pleistocene and all that, that's when your math come in. The geological time scale. Right. And before the Pliocene, you had the Miocene. And they talking about the earlier apes and the gorilla split, the chimpanzee split, the earliest bipedals, the earliest sign of Ardipithecus. Then you got the earliest sign of Australopithecus. And the Australopithecus show up in the Pliocene. That's when the hominini, in the Pliocene, hominini. That's the earliest sign of Australopithecus in the Pliocene. You don't have no hominin in the Miocene. In the Miocene, you have the gorilla and the chimpanzee. Then you got the earliest sign of Ardipithecus. You don't have a hominini until you get to the Pliocene. And you talking about we talking millions of years. So we talking about 5 million, 4 million, 3 million. That's the reason why they started talking about these stone tools. Because hominini, Pliocene, million of years. That's what they talking about, this Australopithecus afarensis. Then you got this Australopithecus africanus. They talking about earliest stone tools. So you have stone tools in the Pliocene, not in the Miocene. You don't have no stone tools being made in the Miocene. See, that's the reason why they talk about prehistory. Oh, that's the reason why the scientists be telling you pay attention to what they teaching you. The PhD be telling you pay attention when they say Miocene, Pliocene, and Pleistocene. When they say Paleolithic. Paleolithic is not telling you anything except stone tools. And when you have stone tools in the Pliocene, what do we know about the Pliocene? Well, let's click over there, the Pliocene. The Pliocene is the epoch in the geological time scale that extends from 5.33 to 2.58 million years ago. It is the second and most recent epoch of the Neogene. Okay, Neogene is a geological period and system that spans 20.45 million years from the end of the Paleogene period, 23.4 mi, to the beginning of the present Quaternary period, 2.58 mi. It is the second period of the Cenozoic and the 11th period of the Phanerozoic. All right, so we're talking about the Neogene. Okay, so Neogene period in the Cenozoic era. The Pliocene follows the Miocene epoch and is followed by the Pleistocene epoch. Prior to the 2009 revision of the geological time scale, which placed the four most recent major glaciations entirely within the Pleistocene. The Pliocene also included the Gelasian stage, which lasted from 2.59 to 1.81 Maya. It is now included in the Pleistocene. The name comes from ancient Greek, meaning most, and kanos, meaning new. As with other older geological periods, the geological strata was there. In geology, in related fields, a stratum is a layer of rock or sediment characterized by certain lithologic properties or attributes that distinguish it from adjacent layers from which it is separated by visible surfaces known as either bedding surfaces or bedding planes. All right, that define the start and end are well identified, but the exact dates of the start and end of the epoch are slightly uncertain. The boundaries defining the Pliocene are not set at an easily identified worldwide event, but rather at regional boundaries between the warmer Miocene and the relatively cooler Pleistocene. The upper boundary was set at the start of the Pleistocene glaciations. All right. All right, let's scroll down to the to where it's talking about the climate. During the Pliocene epoch, 5.3 to 2.6 million years ago, the Earth's climate became cooler and drier, as well as more seasonal, marking a transition between the relatively warm Miocene to the cooler Pleistocene. However, the beginning of the Pliocene was marked by an increase in global temperatures relative to the cooler Mesonean. This increase was related to the 1.2 million year obliquity amplitude modulation cycle. By 3.3 to 3.0 Maya during the mid Penzemian warm period. Global average temperature was 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher than today, while carbon dioxide levels were the same as today. Global sea level was about 25 miles higher, though its exact value is uncertain. The northern hemisphere ice sheet was ephemeral before the onset of extensive glaciation over Greenland that occurred in the late Pliocene around 3 million the formation of an Arctic ice cap is signaled by an abrupt shift in oxygen isotope ratios and ice-rafted cobbles in the northern Atlantic and North Pacific Ocean beds. Mid-latitude glaciation was probably underway before the end of the epoch. The global cooling that occurred during the Pliocene may have accelerated on the disappearance of forests and the spread of grasslands and savannas. And during the Pliocene, the Earth climate system response shifted from a period of high frequency, low amplitude oscillation dominated by the 41,000 year period of Earth's obliquity to one of low frequency, high amplitude oscillation dominated by the 100,000 year period of the orbital eccentricity characteristic of the Pleistocene glacial interglacial cycles. And so, and also during the Pliocene, apparently, let me scroll down to where it said paleography. Continents continue to drift, so continents were moving. Whole continents were moving from positions possibly as far as 250 kilometers from their present location to positions only 70 kilometers from their current location. South America became linked to North America through the Isthmus of Panama during the Pliocene, making possible the Great American Interchange and bringing a nearly complete end to South America's distinctive native ungulate fauna. Though other South American lineages, like its predatory mammals, were already extinct by this point, and others, like Xenothrans, continued to do well afterwards. And what else? Africa's collision with Europe formed the Mediterranean Sea, cutting out the remnants of the Tethys Ocean. The border between the Miocene and the Pliocene is also the time of the Mycenaean salinity crisis. Apparently, the Mediterranean completely went through a period of drying up. And apparently during this period, during the Pliocene is bookended by two significant events in the evolution of human ancestors. The first is the appearance of the hominin Australopithecus, Australopithecus, in the early Pliocene, around 4.2 million years ago. The second is the appearance of Homo. The genus that includes modern humans and their closest extinct relatives near the end of the Pliocene at 2.6 million years ago. And then what else? Key traits that evolved among hominids during the Pliocene include terrestrial bipedality, and by the end of the Pliocene, encephalized brains. Brains with a large neocortex relative to body mass, and stone tool manufacture. All right. All right, we're gonna come. So, like I said, we're gonna be on prehistoric religion, traditional, ancient African religion, indefinite. All branches of science, fields of science, and mathematics. Now, as you know, I'm a beginner with my harmonica, and so I'm in the process, trying, past couple of weeks, have to adjust, having, but that's what I want to do, is be able to get things organized. You know, that old word, organized. Get yourself organized. You know, and so that's what I'm, you know, going to work each and every day and having to adjust because I got to practice. Got to practice. Past week's been kind of hectic. First going to work, then getting off work. You know, but just gonna have to adjust. You know, but I'm still with it. I'm still, you know, at the very beginning because I past couple of weeks, like I said, since my birthday when I first used my harmonica, you know, haven't been. But before I end today's video, I'm just gonna get my harmonica in. You know, cause you know, music is it's a good thing. A lot of opportunities in music. A lot of opportunities. That's really why I'm, you know, had to do something about people lying. You know what I'm saying? And you know, trying to go around trying to lie about Gnosticism. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't even, here it is in this day and time. That's something you shouldn't even hear. With all this education people got in this day and time, how could you hear something like that? Gnosticism. What? You know? What? But, you know, being black / African American, that's one of the reasons why all this oppression and all the atrocities that have been inflicted upon black / African American people from sub-Saharan Africa. And so when it comes to music, you know, history of music. Okay, let's just, people who came from sub-Saharan Africa. You know, traditional African music. And then came here. The first group of people who came from sub-Saharan Africa as slaves. They had culture and customs. They had education. And so when it comes to music, let's rewind the diddly bow, the banjo, the bongos, you know, instruments that were made by people from sub-Saharan Africa. And so when it comes to music, gospel, you know, music that was produced by the oppressor, not just gospel, but like marches, and then from marches came what they refer to as ragtime, and you know, rags, and but they had some few things might have possibly been, you know, minstrel shows and things like that, but prior to ragtime. But ragtime, you know, like after the Civil War, there were, you know, like juke joints and, you know, places like, you know, for entertainment. You know, things like that. And so ragtime on the piano and on the banjo. And then blues and jazz, you know, in you know, all the genres, and just like jazz, you know, you got like swing, and then you got boogie woogie from blues, playing on the piano, you know, and then what they call it, stride, from ragtime, stride, when you be on the piano, you know, but and then, you know, we as blacks / African Americans had this type of music. You had blues and jazz. They became, you know, they kind of became more popular, you know, and it spread, you know, it became spread, you know, because you still see blues and jazz today. Still, you know, when it comes to ragtime, you know, they like revival, whatever. But you have, see, one thing about music is when you know, they just say you're a musician. And irregardless of the tempo of the music, when you know, it's just like saying when you're an instructor in school, like the band instructor, you college educated, you know, you get bachelor's degree, master's degree, possibly a PhD. At the college level, most likely, you know, most likely master and PhD. And same thing, choir, the choir, music, the choir, master's degree, PhD. And so when you say like music replace, you can't just say because the master's degree and the PhD, they know. Because they know the foundation of that. It's just like ragtime. It's just, you know, you could say like mom and dad, grandmama and granddad. Even that's the reason why I say like when I listen to music, when I growed up. Because, you know, being born at the end of the 60s and then coming to the 70s, you still had blues music, of course, and jazz music. Still, and then soul, which is blues. That's what soul music is. That it's really the blues and gospel combined, they made soul music. That's what I've been saying about this blues ensemble, is that there's so much blues, rhythm and blues, soul music, disco, funk. It's rock and roll. It's the blues. It's the blues, as well as those different various, based on region, various genres of blues. But when you know the foundation, just like ragtime, when you have a master's degree, PhD in the music department, and when you say it's just like classical music. It's a good example. Some just like music when you hear on the elevator. We all can relate to this. They just say the music you listen to on the elevator when you riding on the elevator. And you be like, as long as you on the elevator, you be like, you know, I'm hearing it. Just as soon as this elevator door open, that'll be the last time you ever hear. You know, it'd be like, man, it's the last time I'm gonna hear that. You know, hey, but that music, the talented people that produce just like, you know, that elevator music. See, when you got a master's degree and a PhD, they hear it. They don't always hear it the way you hear it, just like, you know, from your standpoint, just, you know, a popular, you know, it's popular in. Oh, you know, like, I'm going to do the Michael Jackson, I'm going to do the moonwalk. Oh, boy, I'm finna, you know, Billie Jean is not my lover. you know, I'm gonna do the moonwalk, you know. And then you put some classical music on, be like, oh man, what the hell? Man, what's going on? Man, what's wrong with that DJ? You trying to get killed up in here? But from a master's degree and PhD point of view, see, that classical music, that's what the PhD gonna be like, man, wait a minute, man, who that DJ up there? Man, who put that Michael Jackson on? Hey man, you trying to get killed up in here, man? Man, who put that Michael Jackson on there, man? Man, put that classical music back on. But see, the foundation of the music. Because see, you start talking about, you know what I'm saying? When you reading the music, the sheet music, when you seeing all the different symbols and stuff on the music, that's what the master's degree and PhD gonna be looking at. See what I'm saying? They're gonna be and then they'll break it down, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like ragtime. You know, ragtime, you break it down to what it really is. That's, you know what I'm saying? And then when you talk about, so, you know, when you know what it is, just like blues and jazz, and then, you know, like the music that come from blues, like boogie woogie, the music that come from jazz, like swing. See, when you say swing, you have to know jazz. You can't say swing and then you don't know nothing about jazz. That don't work. You can't talk about boogie woogie and then don't know nothing about blues. You can't talk about rock and roll. You ain't got no background in blues. What time is it? Yeah. It's just common sense. You got to have a background. You got to have a foundation. So you got to have a foundation. You can't talk about R&B if you don't talk about blues. You can't say, man, I don't like, you know, I don't. And then be talking about you like, you know, R&B. You know, you know, I don't like no blues music. You know. See, sometimes the style of the blues, different regions, you know, different artists will sing a certain genre of music, and that particular artist, their way of singing blues may not be, you know, be receptive in your, you know what I'm saying? But then when it comes to R&B, some people R&B may be the same way. It may not be you. That's R&B. Wow, could have fooled me. That's soul. No, that don't sound like no soul. That sounds like some classical music. You know, hey, you know. But you know, you gotta have that foundation, you know, and you know, funk, disco. Cause you know, just like when you talk about disco, you know, I had to do a little reading about it. And then I looked at the different time frame, and I had to be honest. I had to say something. Look, you can't equate that same sex stuff with dancing or music in that way, and you know, generalize. No, you can't do that. Look, over there in Europe, what you call a discotheque, dancing ain't nothing new. Now you know, and I know. Let's touch on this. World War I, World War II. We talking about blues and jazz, ragtime. You know, hey, black/African American men in World War I, men going over to Europe and fighting in the war, and your culture and your customs, just like blues, jazz, is what including ragtime. You know, because that ragtime ain't that far away now. So when World War One, ragtime not that far away. For you say at that point in time, it's just like this. No, it didn't. This because when World War One, what 1915, the early 1900s. Early 1900s, World War One. Ragtime wasn't gone. It wasn't like it had been. Like people didn't remember. Like what? What you say? Ragtime, man. Huh? No, people knew. No, there were people actually who knew of ragtime, and as music evolved, or expanded or whatever you want to say, to the blues and jazz. World War One, black/African American men in World War One went over to Europe. All that dancing, with the big band and all that, some of that stuff too. The big band and all that, the early 1900s. Well, see, they went over to Europe. All that dancing and jumping, all that dancing. So what you trying to equate with dancing and with music? No. They ain't got nothing to do with no same sex. No. Then World War II, same thing. Black men / African American men and some women went to Europe as well as other parts of the world. But in Europe, dancing with this music in Europe, while serving in the U.S. military in your off, like when you what they call it, off your rest time, dancing and clapping your hands, singing. What you talking about, that same sex stuff? No. So when you talking about around the end of World War II, talking about the discotheque and talking about some kind of style of music. See, we already had blues and jazz, and even before that, ragtime and all, dancing, singing, and hooping and hollering and having a good old time. Man, what time is it? I ain't gonna be able to do my harmonica, but I know definitely. But I'm still on my harmonica though. From this point on, I just got to get organized. I got to get organized. That's all there is to it. Got to get organized. I'm working every day, but I'm just gonna have to organize, get my schedule organized because it's important. Because from this point on, the ensemble is important. Got people being informed. Hey, well, that's what I'm doing. We talking about it. As long as I'm talking about it, we talking about it. But this is real. This ain't no no. Just like I've been telling you all the time, I had to do something about them lies. People lying about narcissism. Okay. But finna get on this thing, get back on what I've been wanting to do, singing, and now I'm playing my harmonica as well. And then one day I'm gonna learn. I got my organ back here, got my microphone. Been standing by me. Been standing by me. But same, dancing and singing for, that ain't what it means. Make this clear. That's not what it means. Your common sense, again, it's a common sense thing. History tells us, black/African American, that ain't what it means to dance and sing and no, that ain't what it means. Blues and ragtime and blues and jazz, no, boogie woogie, and then what's it? With the ragtime stride on the piano. But I mean, on that, and then with jazz, swing, and then came, in the, after World War II, soul music, because that's what gospel and blues is, soul music. Still dancing, clapping your hands, singing, soul music. They ain't had nothing to do with no sex, no same sex, being gay, being no lesbian or being transgender or trans. They ain't had nothing to do with it. So when it comes to disco, what you call disco, the music, what you call a discotheque, I mean, if you want to have some kind of exclusive area where certain individuals, hey, that's the reason why I said the same thing. Hey, when I said about the ensemble, hey, first of all, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. And I'm not bisexual. So when it comes to, being men, hey, what people did, like some of these groups and things, how singing groups and music groups, it was a bunch of guys. That's it. A bunch of guys, and you might have, the Pointer Sisters. It was just the Pointer Sisters. And then they have some band back there, some people with some instruments back there. Or Sister Sledge with 4 sisters, and they got some artists back there with the band, But hey, in this day and time, and then let me say this too. When we talk about the historical black college university, it ain't always been no, like, when it comes to band. Not, like women, I ain't saying that you couldn't, but you know what I'm saying? It had a progress, had to make progress, had to be some advancements and progress, on that, But today, let's just get to the point. Today, you can't go like that. That's the reason why I said what I said. First of all, man, I'm not gay, and I'm not no homosexual. I'm not gay. That's what I mean, and not bisexual. But they don't say homosexual no more. They say gay. Okay. And then you got lesbian, all that transgender, trans, all that stuff. Hey, I'm not one of those people going around hating people because, I read my Bible, because the Bible says, let him by sin cast first stone. But I'm just saying, I don't identify. I'm not in the closet, none of it. So when it comes to women, I prefer to have women around as well as me, with an instrument, as well as singing, because the choir. So, we ain't finna, no, that's the reason why I said, hey man, that's your spot. You've been in the choir 4 years. Just like your classmate, been in the band for 4 years. That's your spot. Nobody with an instrument should, you bad with that instrument. Somebody bad with the microphone with them vocals. The choir. You got just as much education you got. What sense that make? See, we got to be smart. Your classmates in that choir, man, they got grade point average just like, all these different classes they majors and minors in. 3.5 and 3.9, 4.0 grade point average, and can sing that blank off. That's your spot. That's your spot. That's where you belong. The Fifth Jubilee singers, what make you think I wasn't? That's where you belong. That's your spot. Grammy Award winner, Tennessee State, Grammy Award winner, that's your spot. And all the other choir, you know what I'm saying? That's your spot. That's where you belong. And then, like I said, man, I'm not gay. I'm not bisexual. So yeah, I prefer to have some women around because I identify as being heterosexual. I like women. Straight to the point. I like women. I like having women around. So when you like having women around as a man, there's some stuff you're going to have to do here. You're going to have to, you know what you're going to have to do, man? You're going to have to change your behavior. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to, because, you know, you can make women feel like, you know, they don't want to be around, you know. So you got to change. You got to change. And that's what, you got to change that, man. You know, because if you don't change, hey, that ain't the way to do it. But see, I already know these things. You know, with age comes wisdom. You know, you can't behave that way. You know, now when you want things to work the right way, you got to make some changes, man. So hey, you got to change, and hey, them are changes I like to make because I like women. All that aggressive and, you know, hey, you got to change that, man, because you know we got to make some money. You want to get that money, man. You want to be prosperous and successful. Then you're gonna have to make a change. So that, you know, I ain't finna resist. I'm not finna resist. I know what I got to do. This I know. You know, that's just common sense, though. You know, as you know, being men and being a man, of course, man, you got to change that, cause that right there, no, that ain't gonna work. That right there gonna get you, you know, out of here. No, cause I like having women around, and before the women go, you know what time it is, man. This ain't the place for you, man. You gotta go. You gotta get up out of here. You can't, no, you can't be here. No, not like that. No, inappropriate behavior, all that hazing and no. No. And see, when I be making my video, you already see when you see that nonsense ain't nothing but a big lie. That so-called gang stuff, like that blood gang, crip gang, your common sense, you see them dumb ass niggas, just some dumb ass niggas. So that's not even an issue. You can't do that. Because it's some dumb ass niggas. Straight to the point. Ain't no female got to be sitting around trying to, you can't, no. Them some dumb ass niggas, you know it. It ain't nothing to argue about. It ain't no issue. You can't argue about a damn thing. Them some dumb ass niggas. Straight to the point. Ain't no, what time is it? Ain't no, you know, it ain't nothing to say. And then up there in Chicago, same thing. Goddamn, you know, the Egyptian Cobras, some dumbass niggas. Then talking about some gangster disciples and high supreme gangsters, or some what's it? Supreme gangsters, man, some dumbass niggas. Black gangster new breed, some dumbass niggas. Straight to the point. See, when niggas tried to do what was right, when some people tried to do what was right, it was people trying to do all that nonsense where you couldn't do what was right. You try to go behind people's backs. When the conservative vice lord, when Evan Pepperlo Perry tried to get rid of all them damn niggas with that social club stuff, see, that was the same damn mess, some dumb ass niggas. And so when you couldn't get away with it in Chicago, you call yourself gonna try to go somewhere else with the same nonsense and get the same result. Just some dumb ass niggas. And then over there on the East Coast, you try to do the same damn thing. Just some dumb ass niggas. So what, one thing, background checks, trying to go around background checks. See, when you try to play, man, look, Eric ain't finna see alibi. I'm not sitting alibi. I know what I gotta do, so I had to do certain things, but I'm still gonna accomplish my goal. I'm still gonna achieve my goal. What time? Yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna come back on, still my harmonica and everything, still my singing and all that, But I know I gotta get organized. Hey, that's natural. When you start doing something, you got to adjust. So and then when you adjust, you got to organize. That way I can become more proficient with my harmonica. And when I become more proficient with my harmonica, it becomes more. It looks damn good. It looks, on your resume, it looks damn good. That's just a plus. That's a plus on my resume, you know what I'm saying? So like I say, like that old saying, man, you got things to look forward to, looking toward the new year. That's the way I'm looking at. Got something to work on, working toward. And then a little while, man, I'll be, be on it. Yeah. Staying focused. And then, be able to accomplish and achieve what I want to accomplish and achieve. So, made my video today. What time is it? Yeah. I'm going to get ready to end today's video, but I'm going to come back on my next video, because in a way, coming off the Thanksgiving holiday, in a way, I'm going to be honest, I was, I'm just going to go on and admit it, man. I woke up this morning. You know what I'm saying? Because I went to bed, it was late last night. But that's usual for me on the weekend. Go to bed late, But when I wake up in the morning, I had some Thanksgiving stuff left over, so I admit it. I got up this morning and I had some Thanksgiving food, so I got up this morning. I admit it. I had some Thanksgiving food, so I, ate some Thanksgiving food this morning. Yeah, I admit it. Yeah, okay. I admit it. Okay, I'm not gonna. And but I'm gonna come back with my E-stop. Get more proficient with my E-stop. Now I know, you got Honer, Special 20, and Fender, Blues, harmonica, and whatever. And of course you got this what they call the Elite Oscar. Yeah. Like name, name brand. Don't make it sound like I could. I'm a working man. Let me put this out there. Let me say this. I go to work every day. Now, if it's something I really want, let me say this. So it won't be no, let me say this about my harmonica. Now, when I was talking about my harmonica, I do my research. Wait a minute now, hold on. I do my research because I'm a beginner. You see what I'm saying? I'm a beginner with the harmonica. So as a beginner, my point of view is this. As a beginner, it's not so much important that I take my financial earnings and spend like bukus of money on a harmonica as a beginner, and not really knowing the instrument itself and the technique, as a beginner. So my point is this: as a beginner, it's more important to the fundamentals. Get the fundamentals of the instrument, and the technique, like breathing, being able to handle the instrument. That's those things. The fundamentals. That's what's important as a beginner. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody to think like, no, I'm a working man. If it came down just one, I could have got a Honor Special 20 when I looked at it. I was like, yeah, of course, I looked at it. But from my point of view, I was like, man, it's more important that you get a harmonica. And it's just like the Fender Blues harmonica. And what I said about the Fender Blues harmonica, it's not that I didn't want it. What I said was this. It's when I did my research, when I heard about this E-stop, and the fundamentals, I took note of certain things, just like the Honor Special 20. It's something about that Honor Special 20 as a beginner that even I had to say, wait, I thought about it. And when I looked at it, I thought about it. I said, you know what? As a beginner, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest. You have to be honest. That's what I'm saying. You have to be honest. You don't know about the instrument, so it's not going to do you no good to, as a beginner, to not know the breathing technique, how to hold the instrument, not to know the holes, not to even know what, because it's more than one harmonica. See, these things are important. As a beginner, you need to know that there's more than one harmonica. You mess around and get the wrong harmonica. That's the reason why I was like, man, don't get, it ain't too important to be worried about. It's important that you get the fundamentals, man. How many holes? You could have messed around and got one of them chromatic instead of a diatonic. And you don't know what you're talking about as a beginner. But see, I know as a beginner which one you get. That's the reason why then when it came to the Fender Blues harmonica, I was like, well, it's pretty much the same thing. When I looked at it, it ain't like I did my research and it was like, and nobody's really said like, don't use it. Because it was really like, as a beginner, it was fine. Because as a beginner, that's what it'll do. As a beginner. And so, like I said, it's the same thing. I said, I might buy another, just to have around the house, just one of those, like I'm walking around just doing something else. Just like walking and then set my E-stop down. And then pick the Fender up and just, it's like a practice. And not even use my E-stop as a practice. And still doing the same thing because it's got to be a C. And as long as it's a C, you doing this, you doing what's right. So it didn't make no difference about how much it costs for me as a beginner. That's the reason why I was like, you ain't. So when they came to the E-stop, when I did my research, nobody said that the E-stop, when they was like, hey, when they, they went through the process of tone and all that. When I did my research, they were like, hey, that E-stop, you can use that. That E-stop is a good harmonica. So I was like, hey, when I looked at it, and I was like, I said that really was the one that I needed, because as a beginner, you need to learn about the instrument in general, because it don't make no difference about what brand, but it's a harmonic. You need to learn about the instrument, whether it's a chromatic or diatonic or whatever. You need to learn about a harmonic in general, because some brands, when you get to the brand, then when you get a little more proficiency, some brands, they just different. They made different. Then they make them, all that. They make them different. So then that's when that comes. That's when that becomes, because you're a little more proficient. You can look at. That's when you become to the point where you can just look at one, and it might have a name on it. And when you see the name on it, but it might not tell you nothing. You just look at there and say, man, this is blah blah blah. This brand, and it costs $200. Well, okay, but you're more proficient now, and so it wouldn't. You beyond. You no longer a beginner. That's when that becomes, on that. So when I got the E-stop, I got the E-stop for, man, you need to learn the fundamentals of being a harmonic. You need to learn how to hold it. You need to learn the holes. You need to learn which harmonica to use, because there's more than one harmonic. And see, that was important to me. Is when there was a time when I didn't even know that. I'm just gonna be honest. There was a time when I used to hear a harmonica on the radio, I just thought it was a harmonica. Now I know. And when I hear it, sometimes I be wondering. I'm starting to wonder, like, but it's gonna come a day when I'm gonna be able to sit there and be like, oh, when I hear it, I'll be like, oh, I know what that is. I'll be able to say, well, is this letter or is that letter harmonic? Because there was a time in the past I didn't even know. I had no idea how many harmonic, none of that. Because that wasn't my focus. But now it's my focus. Now I know that it's more than one harmonic. And then now I gotta learn, like, it's something, a certain thing, but I'm really excited, and that's what I like about it. When how you get that excitement about something, when you put your mind on something, and you say, I'm finna do this, and when you feel that enthusiasm to want to learn, that's the way I'm starting to feel. I'm starting to feel like, man, I gotta start making I gotta start making time. I gotta start adjusting my schedule when I get, because I can't do nothing. I gotta go to work, of course. But it's when you're not at work, including the weekend, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments. I'm gonna have to get a little more organized. That way I can get my practice in. That way I won't always be a beginner, man. Because things, what I'm saying? It's too many opportunities out there, and them opportunities is there, and I'm finna get them opportunities, man. I'm telling you. But like I said, I like to have these talks because it clears up a lot of things about, all that gay and I'm talking about, like, me. I'm not gay and I ain't bisexual. So, but it's important. Don't never say it's not important, because in day and time, and it don't mean that you are. It just means that what you're trying to do makes it important. Because some things in the past people did, the way people did things in the past. No. I like women. So I like women. That's what I was doing that for. Because I like having women around. I really do. And when saying that and then being, you got to make some changes. Of course. Because I like women. Then, when you like women, man, you got to, you got to make some changes, bro. Yeah, I already know that. Yeah. And I'm not resisting, you know what I'm saying? Because it's inappropriate behavior. Just, ain't no need you trying to buck the system. can't buck the system, man. You're gonna get bucked out. You know, you try to buck the system, you're gonna get bucked out because it ain't gonna work. It just ain't gonna work. You can't be sitting around with all that damn, you know, with your chest stuck out around women, man. You can't. No, you don't get nowhere like that. No. Yeah, but you know, I gotta end today's video. Gotta get ready. But come back on my next video. Like I said, you know, get a little of that harmonica in and everything, and you know, I'm just gonna have to adjust, man, and have to practice and whatever. But I hope and pray everyone had a happy Thanksgiving and everything. You know, we're finna come up on Christmas and New Year's. I'm really glad that they ended that shutdown, you know, because I feel like this is the time of year when everybody should be happy, you know what I'm saying? Especially, you know, the little ones. And people should still be able to get a meal, you know what I'm saying, at the food bank or, you know, at the shelters or whatever, man. That's one of the disappointing things, you know, people can't eat. There were so many people in need that it's like, ain't no telling how long it's gonna take for them to be able to get back to the levels where they, you know, with all these, you know, these non-profit organizations, you know, we're trying to help people in the community, you know, who need the help, like homeless and just not just people who are homeless, just people who need a helping hand, you know, just need a helping hand, need a meal. And so, hope and pray, man, that people be able to overcome their financial challenges and, you know, problems and things, and continue to pray about natural disasters and continue to pray about wars being fought. Just continue to pray. Continue to pray. And believe that your prayer is going to be answered, and have faith. Have faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God. Have faith. And so I'm going to come back on my next video, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to stay on prehistoric religion, traditional, ancient African religion, indefinite, mathematics, all the branches of science, and all their, you know, related departments, indefinitely. Because from my point of view, when we talking about the geological time scale and talking about the continents moving, it ain't nowhere in the world we can, you know, you can be sitting around like you know what you're talking about, you know, and then all the fauna and floral, no, man, all the extinctions and all this stuff about evolution, it ain't nowhere in the world, no. So again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis, in the county seat in the state of Tennessee. And thank all my family, my support, for your continued courage and support. And I'm gonna come back with my next video. And until next time, you take care of yourself. Wish each and one of you very best.